Hello and welcome to another 30 minutes of yoga in the chair. Today we are going to modify poses that are usually done on the floor to using two chairs. So you can follow along with this sequence seated on the floor, or if you have two chairs, you can do the poses in the chair. The other prop that will be helpful today is a yoga strap or belt if you can't touch your toes easily. And then if you're on the floor, you may wish to have a blanket. And for our last pose in the chair, a couple of blocks might be helpful depending on your hip flexibility. So let's get started. Our first pose is going to be Dandasana or staff pose. So you're going to take your second chair, put it in front of you, and you can slide back in your seat, the chair that you're sitting on, and stretch your legs forward into the chair that you've placed in front of you. I'm going to take my socks off. And you want to feel as though your legs can be straight and even with your hips. So if you have two chairs that are slightly different heights, I would recommend sitting on the higher chair and putting your feet on the slightly lower chair. Now, Dandasana or staff pose is the pose that we use to get into most of our seated poses. So like we start in Tadasana or mountain pose to get into our standing poses, Dandasana is the basic seated pose. So you want your feet to be straight out in front of you, toes pointed toward the ceiling, and the feet as flat as possible towards the wall in front of you. So notice, if you just relax your legs, the toes fall forward and the inner foot comes towards you. That's what generally happens to our legs when we relax them. So really stretch through the inner leg to the inner heel. Flex the feet slightly so that the toes point straight up towards the ceiling, and pull that little toe side of the foot back towards you more. Then place the hands on the sides of the chair if you have that much room, or you can hold the seat or legs of the chair if that is more the size of your chair. Lift the chest, roll the shoulders back and down. So the idea here is to have a 90-degree angle between your legs and your spine. You want your shoulders directly over your hips. Now, if you're sitting on the floor and you find that you can't quite get to that 90-degree position, or even if you're sitting in the chair, you could put a folded blanket underneath your hips to give you a little bit of extra room to get into that 90-degree angle. That's straight up with the spine, so you're not leaning back or bending the knees. All right, the next pose we're going to do from Dandasana is Urdhva Hastasana, upward arms. So we're just bringing the arms forward and reaching the arms straight up alongside the ears. Now, this is a deceptively simple looking position to be in, but it can be quite challenging if you're activating the muscles. So really press the thighs down towards the seat of the chair, reach the heels away from you, get those toes to point up towards the ceiling, lift up through the torso and draw the upper arms back alongside the ears. Then we're going to go into Padangustasana in Dandasana, or hand to the big toe pose. You're going to hinge forward at the hips, reach forward towards your toes, take the first two fingers and place them between the big toe and the second toe. wrap the fingers around the toe and grab onto the fingers with the thumb. So you're holding on to those big toes. If you can't reach your toes, you can simply hold on to the shins or take that yoga strap, put it around the balls of your feet, and come as close to your feet as possible with your hands on the strap. Now notice I've got the strap here up on the balls of my feet instead of at the center of the arch. That gives me a closer sensation to holding on to the big toe, so I can really press into the belt, pull with my arms, and come forward, finding more of a stretch in the back of the leg. All right, so I'm going to put the belt to the side for now, and you're going to keep holding on to either your toes or the belt. The next stage is going to be Paschimottanasana, or seated forward bend. The direct translation is actually stretch of the west or back side of the body. Bending the elbows out to the side, I'm going to pull myself forward over my legs, looking down toward my shins. And just breathing here, feeling that nice stretch through the backs of the legs, maybe beginning to feel a bit of a stretch in the back, the low back. Keep pulling forward over those legs. And then we're going to come out with the same sequence. So straighten the elbows, lift the chest, reach the arms forward and up, coming back to Urdhva Hastasana in Dandasana, and then bring the arms down by the sides. Good. So the next pose we're going to do in the chair is Svastikasana, or easy cross legs. So you're going to step your feet down out of the chair, bring that second chair forward so that it is right in front of the chair that you're sitting on, and then come into easy cross legs. So crossing your right leg in, and then your left leg. Here we are with the legs in easy cross legs. Now you may be able to, depending on the size of the chair that you are sitting on and the flexibility in your hips, be able to take those feet all the way onto the chair that you are sitting on. Okay? Sitting up straight and tall. Now, if you're having a bit of a challenge getting into either of these positions, there's always the option of doing one leg at a time. So bringing one leg forward onto the seat of the chair, and then switching and doing the other leg up on the seat of the chair. You also have the option of using a rolled blanket to support the leg if there's any discomfort in the ankle or the knee. I'll show that in just a moment, but first, for everyone who is in Svastikasana already, you're going to come out, and this time you're going to take the left leg in first and then the right leg. So there's two sides to this pose. You want to alternate between left and right. Now, if you wanted to support the ankle, the knee, if you're feeling any discomfort there, you can take a blanket, a yoga blanket, or a thick towel works, fold it up neatly and then rolled. And then say I was just doing one leg at a time, I could roll that blanket up and rest my leg on that rolled blanket. I could even do this with both legs crossed over. other side of the blanket. So those are some options for Svastikasana. It's also sometimes called Sukhasana or easy pose, and that is cross legs. Okay. Now, the next pose we're going to do is Upavista Konasana, or wide-legged pose, extended angle. And what we're going to do is more or less one leg at a time for this one. So you're going to take that chair and move it out to the outside of your right leg and take the right leg out into the chair. You can scoot a little bit forward and just move that chair until you feel a nice stretch between the inner groins here. So you're taking your left leg to the side, your right leg is straight in the chair. If you're on the floor, you would be doing this just with two straight legs on the floor. All right. From here, we're going to lean forward slightly, finding a nice stretch through the inner groins, maybe a stretch through the outside of the leg and hip. Just resting your hands on your thighs and leaning forward to find the stretch. If you're on the floor, you can walk your fingers forward on the floor as far as they'll reach. But if we're in the chair, we're just going to lean forward with our hands on our thighs. And then sitting back up, we're going to go straight into Parsva Upavista Konasana, or side stretch with the wide angle. So you'll take your right hand behind you to the back of the chair seat. Take your left hand in front of you. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist toward your straight right leg. And then reaching up with your left arm next to the left ear. We'll extend over the right leg, reaching for the right foot. And then you can bring your left arm forward as well. If you can't reach the foot, again, just hold on to the shin or grab your belt and loop it around the foot, holding on to the belt as close to the foot as you can reach. Okay, keep turning not just the shoulders, but the lower abdomen toward that straight right leg, as if you were trying to get the navel to point directly over the thigh. Right? And then if you'd like to go further into this stretch, you can, like Paschimottanasana, bend the elbows out to the side and look down towards your shin. Breathing here, and then straightening the elbows and reaching the arms forward and up. Come back to center and release the arms down. Now you're going to take the chair and do the opposite side. So if you're on the floor, you will simply stay and do the twist. So here we are in Upavista Konasana in the chair, left side. And we're going to make sure that the knee points straight up towards the ceiling, the toes point straight up to the ceiling like in Dandasana, staff pose. Walk that right leg to the right and get a nice stretch through the inner groins. And then if you're in the chair, you're going to place your hands on your thighs. If you're on the floor, you're going to reach forward on the floor and begin to lean forward. And in the final version of this pose on the floor, you would lean all the way forward and rest the chest, the chin, or the forehead on the floor. Good. And then pushing yourself back up, walking your hands back to your hips. You're going to take your right hand in front of you, your left hand behind. Inhale, lift up through the spine. Exhale, turning from the lower abdomen toward that straight left leg. Remember, if you're on the floor, you're just in both legs straight, wide out to the sides. And then reach your right arm up alongside the right ear. Extend forward over your left leg and hold the foot or use the belt. And bring your left hand to the other side of the foot. Keep turning the torso. Turning through the lower abdomen, trying to get that navel over the thigh. And then you can bend the elbows and look down toward the shin. Keep turning those right ribs down, turning the left ribs to the side, over that left thigh. And then straighten the elbows and reach the arms up, turning back to center. Bring the arms out and down. Good. Bend your left knee, place it down on the floor, and bring the second chair back in front of you. And the next pose we'll do is Baddha Konasana, or bound angle. It's often called butterfly pose. So you're going to take your knee up and place your foot on the chair. Take the other knee up and foot on the chair, and soles of the feet together on the chair in front of you. Now, again, depending on the size of the chair and the openness of your hips, you may be able to rest your feet on the chair that you are sitting on. I'm going to place them on the chair that is in front of me so I can show you one of the supports that you can do for yourself. So again, you would have a rolled blanket or two. In this case, you would have two so that you could put the blanket in here. You want to be supporting the lower leg, if possible, just the lower leg, because then the upper leg actually has some room to descend and stretch, and the lower leg, the ankle, the knee has some support, so it's not just hanging in the air. So you would put two blankets, one on either side, just under the shin, right? Wherever you are now, you're going to hold either the fronts of your shins, or you can hold underneath the feet, lift the chest, and then we're going to come forward, bending the elbows out to the side, begin to fold forward over the legs and look down towards the feet. Just going as far as you need to go in order to begin to feel the stretch. If you're feeling a stretch, you're doing it right. Okay. And then sitting up, bring the knees together and stretch the legs out in front of you back into Dandasana, staff pose. So now we're going to combine one leg of Dandasana and one leg of Baddha Konasana for Janu Shirsasana, head of the knee pose. For this one, you want to come a little bit farther forward in your chair so that you have room a little bit behind you for your hip to adjust. And you're going to take your right leg, so left leg stays straight, right leg comes into Baddha Konasana. And you want to let your right hip slide back slightly so that your knee comes as far out to the side as it can. So Again, depending on the kind of chair that you're sitting in, the bar might get a little bit in the way, or you could take the knee back a little bit farther. If you're sitting on the floor and you don't have any restriction with the chair, you want to bring that knee from a 90-degree angle with your left leg to slightly back, taking that right hip slightly back. That gives you the angle you need to get the feeling of twist when you turn back towards that straight left leg. Now, reach your right arm up alongside your right ear and come forward out over toward your left foot, holding on to the left foot or using the belt. And you can bring that left hand around to hold the other side of the foot. So this is Janu Shirsasana, head of the knee pose. Again, we're going to bend the elbows out to the side and look down toward the shin. Staying there in the pose, breathing. If you're on the floor, or even if you're in the chair, and this thigh isn't coming down to the chair, if the knee is up in the air, you can take a rolled blanket and place it underneath the thigh and the shin so that you have some support. If you're in the chair, you might have to wedge it through the back of the chair as well to keep it in place, and that gives you some support so that the knee doesn't feel any strain. All right, coming out of the pose, we're going to lift up and reach the arms out and down. All right, bring that right leg forward and we're going to do the left side. So keep the right leg straight, bring the left leg back. Now, I didn't show this on the other side, but hopefully you got it from Baddha Konasana. If you can't bring your foot all the way back onto the chair that you're sitting on, you can leave the foot forward on the chair that has your legs supported. But do try to get that angle with the left hip back so that you feel the twist and get into a nice stretch for the side of the back in this pose. So I'm going to do this here, this repetition on the left side. Bring your left arm up alongside the ear, lengthen and reach for your right foot. Bring your left hand or right hand around to hold the other side and come forward over your right leg. So even though I have my left foot forward on the chair that's supporting my leg, I'm still feeling a nice stretch through the side of the back and a nice stretch through the back of the leg, and even a nice stretch in my bent knee, hip, and inner thigh. So don't be disappointed if you can't bend the knee all the way back to the chair you're sitting on. You're still getting a really good stretch with the foot forward. All right, if you haven't already, come forward, looking down, bending the elbows out to the side. Take a breath here. And then straightening the elbows, reach the arms forward and up. And turn the palms out to the side and reach the arms out and down. All right, bring that leg in and stretch the leg back out. Okay, and then the last pose that we're going to do today in the chair is Malasana, or garland pose. And this is a deep squat. So for this one, I'm going to show with the blocks a couple of different options for this. And If you don't have blocks, you might have some thick books. You might have some folded blankets, nice, thick, firm folded blankets that you can use. I'm going to move the chair out of the way and show you. I'm going to start with just 2 foam blocks. Put my feet up on top of the foam blocks, scoot my hips forward to the front edge of the chair, and I sprained my ankle a few weeks ago, so even in this position with my feet on one block, on my sprained ankle, I can feel the stretch already, because it's been a little stiff lately. So you may already feel a stretch here. You can also lean forward with your elbows on your knees, or reach all the way down to the floor. Let the head go, feeling that deep squat position in your hips. You have your second chair. You can also reach forward onto the chair if you can't reach the floor. Now, how would you be doing this if you were on the floor already? You would be able to lean your back against the wall and have your feet in this squat position. So I'm going to show you that from the side. So here I am with my back against the wall. My feet are about 12 inches away from the wall, and my feet are about a little bit wider than hip distance apart, with the toes pointing out slightly. I'm just going to slide down the wall. And I was a little generous with that 12 inches. I could probably have been a little bit closer to the wall with my feet. So pushing myself up. Maybe I'll come back another inch or 2. There we go, sliding down the wall, and now I'm feeling a nice stretch. You can put your palms together, your hands to the insides of the knees, and press the knees apart. So that's Malasana on the floor with the wall. Okay. Now I'm going to show you another variation with the chair. So if you have more props that you can stack up, you can put your feet on 2 blocks, scoot towards the front edge of your chair, and my blocks got moved a little bit here. Make sure they're nice and even. Okay, so here I am towards the front edge of my chair and feeling a little bit of stretch in the ankle and the shin. I can lean forward to my knees. I don't think I'll be able to get my hands to the floor in this one, so I can bring the chair in front of me and walk the hands forward on the seat of the chair for that squat. All right, and those are some floor-based poses that you can do with 2 chairs and a few other props if needed. Bring your feet down to the floor. If you're sitting on the floor, come into easy cross legs or staff pose with the legs stretched out straight in front of you. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. Let the eyes close. Move inward, observing the breath. The light in me acknowledges the light in you. Namaste. Thank you for joining me today and working on these poses. I hope to see you again tomorrow.